multiverse listeners, and welcome to the Catalog Review Show. And then tonight, we got a band out of Boston. Maybe one of the best American exports in rock and roll. And when I say rock and roll, it's rock and roll. They could roll, they could rock, they could harmonica. They could do a soundtrack song. They diversity, a vocal that is unmistakable, I would think. We're talking, obviously, of Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, Tom Hamilton, Joe Kramer, Joe Perry, Brad Whitford, and, of course, a band that basically survives two changes in not their makeup, but, like the start of their careers, the drug years, the non-drug years, and then the ending, and
like a decade.
Yeah, pretty much a band that's, I don't know, 37 wins in music history at all these award shows out of 95. That's a really good percentage. They made songs that connected. They made tracks that stood the test of time. Several of their singles could be considered some of the greatest singles of all time. And that's saying something when you're competing against people like Rush out of Canada, or you're competing against Led Zeppelin and Stairway to Heaven. But I would certainly say Sweet Emotion is definitely in that list, in that makeup. But is this all killer, or is there a lot of filler? This is an immense catalog. We're talking 15 albums over the span of 50 years, basically, right on maybe a little bit less than 50. They almost won an Oscar, although they didn't write the song, but they performed it. It was written by Diane Warren, but they didn't win. But tonight, we've got a great panel set up. One, as you can tell by the background, might be the heavy hitter of the bunch. But let's introduce the panel since we're getting there, shall we? The man who definitely could take a permanent vacation with Aerosmith, Ray Geska.
What's
She's
up, everybody?
always living on the edge.
Yes,
Susie
indeed.
Q. We just don't know at the edge of what, because it's really dark and we can't tell.
Sorry.
And then, don't get mad, get even. That's his motto. Jeff Young.
Okay.
I found this to be very, very difficult. And when we put this band in that upper echelon of the exports of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time out of the United States, and you look at this catalog and you go back and you get into the 1973 where this all began, and you listen to that record, and then you get to all the way to 2012 and that album, and it's night, day, and then a sort of return and production differences, and it's a very, very difficult process for me, but I can't wait to hear the panelists. So 15 albums. We're going to go 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. Obviously, every 5. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
5, right?
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. All right. Well, you got to start off with the lady in the bunch. So let's let Susie start.
Okay, these will go fast for me because some of the early years I don't have much to say, but based on listening to and trying to, it's tough. I love Aerosmith, but I'm just going to put it out there that I did not listen to a lot of things early on. So I went.
You weren't even born yet.
I was just a baby. But I went 15 was Get Your Wings, which did wind up getting, I believe, like 3 platinums. I think it caught Ray's.
Ray's he's trying to hang in there. That's why he's got the background, so he can escape into the
Sorry.
background.
I told Mark, I'm afraid. I don't want to insult Ray.
It's not that you're wrong. There's no way you could be right. That's all.
Yeah, I'm Alex tonight.
Yes.
And I'm dark. Okay. 14, I went with Honkin' on Bobo. And I do really like it. It was a good one.
That's
Very
a cover
bluesy.
album. Completely.
Bluesy. 13, I went Music from Another Dimension. It was a nice mix, I thought. A lot of different good sounds. 12, I went Rock in a Hard Place. It was a little bit darker, and I enjoyed it. And then Done with Mirrors. So that's kind of it for me. And these were hard for me again because I'm not super familiar with them, but those are my first 5, I should say.
All right. Let's go to Ray. He's gonna combat the theory of us younger-ish individuals, I guess.
Well, first off, I just got to say, I mean, this is a great topic. I mean, great band, and I think I can confidently say that Aerosmith has got to be, one of the top 5 greatest hard rock bands of all time. So I kind of thought Crichton and I were talking about this, and I told him, and he's not a hard rock guy at all, but I said, of the top 5 hard rock bands of all time, regardless of where you come from, I got Aerosmith, AC/DC, Van Halen, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple. Boom.
Yep.
Then you can get your next 10. And then the interesting thing about Aerosmith, like you kind of touched on at the beginning, they had this great early part of their career. Then they really hit a lull. And then at the late 80s, man, they just exploded again and kind of became like this whole new, hard rock band. It was so fantastic. So going through like the list here, I think that there were a couple of those dead periods, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of like, like the very late 70s into the early 80s, and then again like in the later 90s into the first part of this century. They were just like, whatever. So, and I think some of those leave a lot less for me to kind of talk about. When I get down to my top 5, I got some notes I prepared. So
Yeah.
I know you're excited about that. But so the first few, I didn't know a lot, and I tried to listen to them, and I just didn't really care. Like Music from Another Dimension, I put at number 15. It's a throwaway. 9 Lives, wasn't crazy about it. I think they tried hard on that album, but I think by that point there was just something missing. They lost the edge they got in the early part of the 90s, and that came out, I think it was like 97, if I'm not mistaken. It was okay, but not great. That's 14. Night in the Ruts. That was definitely a rut for the band after such a killer stretch of albums in the 70s. Then came that album. I think that one was what, 79?
Yes.
Not a great record by any means. So 15, 14, 13. I got Rock in a Hard Place at 12, and I'll put Draw the Line at 11. Just forgettable records, if you ask me. But again, getting back to their greatness, it's like everything else. It just kind of overshadows just some of those dead spots, I would say, in their library.
Yeah, I would say there's always a song on on every album that you just go, wow, right? And then sometimes that might have been it, that really stuck. It's funny because I was looking at like my list and I went, am I being fair? So then you go to like, what were the singles, and
yeah.
I mean, if you have 15 albums, you have at least 1 or 2 good songs on every album, people will listen to you for decades.
It's true.
Very true.
And that's the thing. But I'll let you go, Jeff, now that you're on the clock.
Well, I mean, these 5 can be any order, but I put Just Push Play, their 13th album, 2001. If for no other reason, because Joe Perry said this is them unfocused, and it's an example of how not to make an album. Even though they got a couple of songs like Jaded and stuff, but Honkin' on Bobo, it's a cover band. I never listened to it. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just don't listen to it.
It came with a harmonica. It was fantastic. It came with a harmonica.
That's cool.
Okay, never
mind. Music from Another Dimension, their 15th final album in 2012. Again, I just don't ever listen to it. Rockin' a Hard Place, their 7th album from 72. It's the only Aerosmith album not to feature Joe Perry, and also Whitford had left also. I read where Joey Kramer had said the record doesn't suck. There's some real good stuff on it, but it's not a real Aerosmith record because it's just me, Steve, and Tom. So, and then 9 Lives. I have nothing to say about it because, well, I guess that's the reason it's in the bottom 5. There's nothing to say about it.
Right on.
Okay. I'm not going to be so out of the loop here. So music from another dimension. Yeah. First of all, I don't even understand what dimension they think it's from. It sounds like the same old shit. So I don't know what dimension that was from. There's not a song on there that I ever remember being memorable to any degree. I think Loved in Triple X or something like that. Love 3 times though. Whatever. Blah, blah. My number 14, Draw the Line. I don't remember a single on it. And it was line drawing. I don't it's black and white. Were they trying to do some sort of like we're the next Beatles?
That's done by a caricature artist who was famous for doing celebrities.
Okay. Just Push Play. Yeah, I pushed it a couple of times. There was a couple of things, but that was as far as it went. My number 12, yes, Rock in a Hard Place. Yeah. Maybe that's why they named it what they did, because it was definitely between a rock and a hard place. And then I have this is where I'm a little bit different. I have Get Your Wings in 1974. I thought the production
Simmer down, Ray. Simmer down.
Was just lazy. There were parts in it that just from the 1973 record, right? We're going to 74. There's a lot of like things that going back, and this is I don't know if this is, and Ray can, go ahead and not back me up and get upset, because it is my belief that you don't have to have this catalog. I think if you were to do a greatest hits package that was a triple CD or something of that nature, and that's why I'm pretty sure they have one of the most long-standing greatest hits catalogs. There's like multiple.
The first album I ever bought from them was a greatest hits cassette tape.
The one in 1980. That was one of the best selling.
I will say that
when the logo, it's great.
Yeah. And I just don't remember that album. And my number 11 is Night in the Ruts in 1979. I don't remember that. And when I went back to it, nothing seemed to be familiar to me other than the one single or whatever. But that was tough for me. The 70s, in certain cases, except for a couple of records, all right, that it's almost like, and I didn't look to see who produced these records, and that's probably a big thing too. It just sometimes I felt like, is this going to get remade? Because they're all excellent musicians, and they can do what they do. And for some reason, when I listen to those late 80s records, they are miles ahead in sound and the way they're put together.
I mean, everybody was.
And Tyler was not ready at that point to do the things he was doing in the late. I don't know if it's because they would have seemed obtuse in the 70s. There's not a lot. It's very safe.
Well, your first couple albums,
don't you feel it's safe?
Your first couple albums you're going to be, it's based on the influences you had to even start playing and performing.
Yes, because they have covers on theirs, right? There's cover.
Yeah, they got I think they got a cover almost
like a Van Halen would have done too. That's why I put, when you said Van Halen and Aerosmith, I get that. I would obviously put Van Halen closer to the number 1 position, or maybe number 2, number 1. If I ever told you, I don't want to, because we're going to do this show about the U.S. bands and stuff. So, but yeah, that's my 5. 15, 14, 13, 12, and 11.
Yeah, looking at Draw the Line, just looking over it here, it looks like there are like 2 tracks on there. Kings and Queens was one, and then they did the Milk Cow Blues, which was a cover that.
It's a cover, right?
Kinks, Kinks did that originally.
I don't remember that song.
Yeah.
But when you get to some of these other ones, you're whoa. Yeah, I remember. So, Sue, back to you for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
All right. Well, I'm continuing on, and again, These are what they are. I went with 9 Lives, Draw the Line, Night in the Ruts, and then I had, oh wait, did I just push play? And then my number 6 is Aerosmith.
The 73 record, the title.
Yes.
Debut.
Yep.
Okay.
Which, yeah.
And is that like a continuation of like from your bottom going forward that they're just not
Yeah,
enough?
I mean, and honestly, it's just when they became recognizable to me, the first songs that I remember hearing and kind of putting it together for me. Obviously, some of these came later, but I just wasn't into them as much. And I always feel like I'm referencing you, but it wasn't really until we started dating that, you know, I was listening to their cassettes on repeat quite a bit. So
Yeah. And if you look at this catalog, you'll notice a departure from the yearly album. They will have longer breaks between albums, especially in the late 80s and into the 2000s, because their tours must have been ridiculously long. And they also had solo projects and other things happening, and stardom here and stardom there, you know. So
I think the longest tour they ever had was after their second album, because it came out at the same time as a Springsteen album, and they got like no interviews, no radio airplay. No, they got nothing, no publicity whatsoever. So they decided we're just going to try to build our fan base by touring. And they toured, I think, like almost like 2 straight years.
that's awesome, though. I will say through all of this, I feel like they're a very authentic band, and they did their thing. They were true to themselves, which is, you know,
yeah,
I mean, they stayed with it, and they really didn't change. Like they didn't do like a 180 at any point, but I think they just improved. I think they improved. Their sound improved, and so
that's definitely the impression I got. Well, let's go to Ray, and then for his next 5, and then we'll get into the Joe Perry the guitar work as it moved on.
Well, these next two, I think these next two are kind of grouped in with the previous 5. I think these were just like whatever. It's not like I'm going to sit and listen to these albums or find a whole lot of greatness about them. Like you said, that you can find some tracks, I think, amongst them. But after these next two, then the rest of them, that's where it gets really, really good. So after those top 5, I'll go, let's see, 15, 14, 13. Number 10, I got it, Done with Mirrors. And then I got number 9, I got Just Push Play. I think a lot of what Jeff said there too. It's like, you know, and even what the band member said, wasn't a favorite album, but Jaded, I think, came out at the right time. It was really good to, you know, hear Aerosmith have such a huge single and be on the radio again after some time away, other than, you know, I just don't want to miss a thing, or whatever that song was. Couldn't hear enough of that, right? But
Armageddon.
Jaded was good, and Girls of Summer, and then there was like one other track on there, so it was decent. But Draw the Line and Done with Done with Mirrors and Just Push Play. Okay, so that's now it starts to get really good. So so after that, I got Permanent Vacation. So this was the big comeback album for the band in 1987. And then once Dude Looks Like a Lady hit the airwaves, it's like, what?
Yeah.
And this was the time where, you know, hair metals all over the place, pop songs were just turning into just sludge on the radio. You know, Guns N' Roses had just released Appetite for Destruction, and that just ripped this huge hole into the music world that like everybody needed, just ripped it open.
Those two bands were like half of what you saw on MTV.
Right? And it was so hard. And then once Aerosmith came out with this, and, you know, Dude Looks Like a Lady, and like a bunch of other tracks on there. It was like, wow, they are back. Where have you been? So that was so fantastic. Now I'm putting Honkin' on Bobo actually next. That came out after another lull. Like, I think it was like '04, so about 20 years now. And I'm a big blues guy, and to hear Steven Tyler and Aerosmith doing, version of Van Morrison and them doing "Baby Please Don't Go," and you got some other tracks on there. It's like, wow, this is really, really good. And there's this other track on there. I was looking for it that Joe Perry does the lead vocal on. I'm gonna find that after I'm done here. I just love it, and it was just really good. An underrated album. Rarely gets mentioned when you talk about Aerosmith's albums, but liked it a lot, Honkin' on Bobo. And then to wrap it up, this was tough. This one was tough. I was going to put in the top five or it was going to be outside the top five. But the debut, I got at number 6, which is Aerosmith. The funny thing is, after this album, the record company dropped them because it wasn't selling enough. So Dream On was actually re-released a couple years later before it actually became a really big hit on the radio. But there's some really good songs, and Steven's voice. I mean, so many people that don't know the history of Aerosmith, they listen to Dream On, they're like, "Are you sure this is Steven Tyler?" Because his voice was so young, it was so different from what we've come to know. And there's some other songs on that. Mama Kin, I think, is the other one that I really like on that album. And they just did some really good stuff on that album, and thought it was really good, and a really, really good debut, even though the record company didn't quite agree with that. But I'll put that one in at number 6.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, my tens draw the line there for the album for '77. I was 6 years old, so didn't hear it till after a while. But Joe Perry had said that and that actually, I like the title track. The title track's a really good song. But Joe Perry had said that I read that Draw the Line was untogether because we weren't a cohesive unit anymore. It was the beginning of an end and the decay of our artistry.
The Toxic Twins. Yeah.
I also picked, Done with Mirrors, the 8th album from '85. That was when Perry and Whitford returned. But this was also produced by Ted Templeman, who did a lot of Van Halen. And he told the band to run through the songs in the studio and recorded them without them knowing it. He did that with Van Halen because Whitford had said that he kind of referred to they had nervousness knowing that they were being recorded sometimes, so like usually in the studio you got a red light. He would keep it off all the time, so they wouldn't know recorded. So maybe it didn't work so much for this album, but just thought it was interesting that they did that. And I read too where a lot of like maybe diehard fans or some critics consider this their true comeback album. I don't think it is. I think it's clearly permanent vacation, but I think a lot of people feel like this should have been for whatever reason. So, but I don't agree. Then for number 8, I put Night in the Ruts, the 6th album from '79. I mean, Remember Walking in the Sand is good, but again, it's a remake. It's still a very good version. It's probably the most memorable song I know from that. And then at 7, I did the debut album. I mean, Dream On, Mama Kin, just legendary songs. I mean, those 2 songs alone. I mean, I was considering putting it higher just because of those 2 songs alone. And then 6, I got the 11th album from '93, Get a Grip. It's their best-selling studio album worldwide, most successful U.S. album. You got Eat the Rich, Fever, Living on the Edge, Crying, Amazing. I mean, again, a big MTV album. But yeah, like I said, I agree with Ray. Well, like, once you get to like 6 and above, you're gonna enjoy every album. But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Let's see. My number 10 is Night in the Ruts. Covers are covers. They're well done. I don't know. I just that one I play less for sure. The debut comes in at 9. Honkin' on Hobo. It's number 9. Number 8 is the debut, 1973. Just those 2 songs. And the production, So it's just like, I think what happens is you get caught in time, where you were when it happened, what you were listening to then. But in my mind, I compare it to get every album and the production and where, and don't get me wrong, there are bands and stuff where I make a connection with. I have never seen this band live. I wanted to see them live
Oh, it's too bad,
a
man.
long
I
time
really
ago, but I definitely didn't want to go when Just Push Play was going on. And I was like, because I heard horrible things. So
I mean, we all get bands we wish we'd seen when they were able to be seen.
we did.
Everyone's got a list.
I did pretty good. I've got a few regrets, but we'll
I mean,
have a whole. We'll have a
if you
whole
love
show.
music, there's always going to be somebody you missed, right? But
Yeah, it's too expensive to do everything, right?
The Just Push Play tour was killer.
Was it?
Much more killer than the album, believe you me.
Oh well, that's kind of the thing. Is like I listen to this and I go, geez, what a great live song that would have been. So then it's 9 Lives. Why, you might ask? My favorite song from Aerosmith is on 9 Lives. They're Cashmere.
wait, did you pick 9 Lives at number 9?
No, it's number 7. It was. I was thinking that's where it was going to go, but that's not how it went. So the Taste of India. I'm going to preface this by saying Aerosmith had this thing about having long songs. Not long, but almost too long. Too many repeats, and they, but then they had other songs where they had things going on in between, like Sweet Emotion and other ones. But this Taste of India is my favorite song. It has a lot more going on. It has this Kashmir kind of feel. The lyrics are great. I also like Kiss Your No, wait a minute. No, The Farm, no. Is it Full Circle? There's a play on words in there that they're talking about. Watch out for heaven because we all have to pay our debt in hell or something. And I can't, now I had the lyric in my head the whole time, but it's a drinking song. It's an Irish drinking song from a Boston band, and nobody plays it during St. Patrick's Day, but damn it, what is the name of the song? Is it Kiss Your, no, it's not Kiss Your Past Goodbye. Pink, Attitude Adjust. Nah, I can't remember now. That's terrible. What a horrible host I am. All right, this is why you write notes down when you're going through this. But I was listening to this album again when I was cutting the lawn, and it was deeper into my ear. And there's another instance. When you are listening to their albums, unless your stereo is cranked, it's in your earbud, these newer records sound better. The guitar sounds crisper. The changes sound better. Steven Tyler sounds amazing. Say again.
I think it was Full Circle.
Full Circle.
I think it was.
Yeah, I think it came right after Taste of India. I'm pretty sure.
Have to check those two out.
Yeah, that's my favorite. So that goes back to 7. So that was a elongated one. Sorry. And number 6 is Done with Mirrors. So there I am at my Done with Mirrors. It's a really good album. Crappy cover. Just Done with Mirrors. Couldn't you have mirrors on there? Did they run out of money, time?
Made it a mirror.
Yeah, why not, right? I don't even know what was done with mirrors, but okay. Your imagination run wild. Sue, your top 5.
Magic is Done with Mirrors. Okay, my number 5, I went with Rocks. I like the guitar on it. I'm not super familiar with it, but just listening to it, it made my top 5. Number 4, I went with Permanent Vacation. We're getting into my kind of music now. So I don't know if I can name the songs, but everybody will do Looks Like a Lady Ragdoll Angel.
Come on.
I didn't have MTV, by the way, so this was all just me listening to a 102.5 and 97 Rock, and
Yeah, I didn't have MTV either. I had friends with MTV.
Whoever was playing it. Yeah. I had a friend. I had one friend with MTV. Permanent Vacation. Number 3, Toys in the Attic. Number 2, I went with Get a Grip. And
wow. So you're number 1. Wow.
I know this is hard.
Wow.
This was hard. Wow, why,
What's your number 1?
Pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. It was between Get a Grip and Pump for me, to be honest. But
What was the deciding factor, Sue?
Every song is like memorable.
Yeah, I mean that was our
Almost.
heyday. That was our heyday. Like that was like the soundtrack of our life for a while there. So, and they were just really raw, like Ray's saying. I mean, they just busted out, and I don't
And you
know.
think about it, that's what, 1989. So that's the year before we graduate. So those songs are playing in our graduation year. And then permanent Get a Grip is like multiple years later. I mean, it doesn't happen until 93.
Yeah, 1993. Similar to me. I mean, you know, it could go
We
either
had
way.
a very long heyday, apparently.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of good times, don't you think?
I think so. Yes.
So
Look it up.
Good. Look it up. Ray.
All right. Well, yeah, Permanent Vacation was the big comeback album, and that was in '87. But I think it was truly the next two that really reinstituted the band as the world's greatest hard rock band. Pump came out, like we said, what, 88, late 88 or 89, and
89.
I'll put that in at number 5. What It Takes, Janie's Got a Gun, The Other Side, Love in an Elevator. I mean, you couldn't escape those tunes, and they still sound so great today. I love hearing the extended versions too, when you get that, the musical interlude at like
Yeah.
at the beginning of Love in an Elevator, and I think on The Other Side too, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, realistically, those albums themselves kind of make this like a mini greatest hits album. Just a tremendous record. And I really think it just like Appetite for Destruction did. I think this is another one that just kind of ripped a hole into, just this schlock pop they had out and just this hair metal, which was about to die, not only from Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith, but here comes grunge too. And that was going to put the final nail in the hair band's coffins. Get a Grip, I'll put it in my number 4 spot. I was debating between this one and the debut to see which one was going to make the top 5, but the debut was good. But it also, listening to it, it seems really dated, aside from Dream On and another track or two. But Get a Grip, man, it was even a bigger hole that they just ripped. It was just such killer hard rock, man. And Crying, amazing. Eat the Rich, Get a Grip, Crazy. Just outstanding record. Just so good. But at the end of the day, it was really the mid-70s output that made this the greatest American hard rock band. Many classic rock bands, have a period that is considered the golden era, right? Kind of like the Stones from 68 to 73. While Tyler, had a lot of that Jagger, Stonesy swagger, that got them going and everything. It was the musicianship that really gave them such a harder edge. So at number 3, I'm going with the 1976 release Rocks. The hard drugs were really starting to escalate among the band members here, and it led to a less than flattering, Toxic Twins nickname that they got, to kind of a takeoff on the Glimmer Twins from the Stones.
Yep.
Tyler and Perry became the Toxic Twins. However, this record nearly topped the epic album that was released prior to it, and quite possibly their most raw and rocking album. This had Last Child and Back in the Saddle on it, as well as Rats in the Cellar, which was a bit of a takeoff on the prior album. And then it gets down to really being tough to decide which of the last two was going to be number 1. Often considered their greatest release, Toys in the Attic is my choice for number 2, Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion will go down in history as two of the greatest classic rock tracks ever. Of course, Walk This Way got new life 10 years later with, Run DMC doing it. And then, just streetwise blues at its finest, a truly epic record. And of course, in at number one, someone else put it at number 15, but I'm going to put it at number one. It's just an incredible release, 1974's Get Your Wings. They had been dropped, like I mentioned earlier, from their record label after the debut hit. So they hit the road. They went on the road and put out one of the finest tours today in the 1970s. They had so many great rock bands touring, but the Stones tour in between their first two albums regarded as one of the finest. They got their songwriting chops in order and produced an incredible rock album. Same Old Song and Dance, Lord of the Thighs, Train Kept a Rolling. And you mentioned your favorite song, which was an odd one, Mark, Taste of India. My favorite one from Aerosmith is another little known one, a ballad off of Get Your Wings, incredible track called Seasons of Wither. Fantastic track. This album set the stage for arguably, not my number one favorite, but arguably the greatest Aerosmith song would have been Toys in the Attic, but this set it all up. So that whole period, man, fantastic. So Get Your Wings. Let me get back here. Here we go.
I'll listen again.
There's no question about those songs. There's just none. The production of that record, man, if they could just redo that one like they just did Pompeii from Pink Floyd, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did.
Yeah, I got Get Your Wings as their second album is my number 5. Again, same old song and dance, Train Keep It Rolling, just legendary. Then I got Rocks from '76, Last Child, Back on the Saddle, like you said. I put next one I got is Pump. Again, easily 6 to 7 recognizable singles off that one in '89. Then I put Permanent Vacation, mostly because it's mostly because I just appreciate that they reinvented themselves pretty much. And it's the first album that they use with outside songwriters. And then so at number 1 I put Toys in the Attic, and the only reason I put Toys in the Attic number 1 is on the strength of the 2 songs, Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion, which we played for eternity.
Yeah, good top 5, Jeff. Real good.
All right, my number 5 is Permanent Vacation. I thought it was going to be higher. I thought it would be higher. Just didn't. There's a couple of tracks on there, and it's my problem with the entire Aerosmith catalog is there are just some in the earlier ones. There's a lot of misses, like just filler, and then there's this album. The first couple of tracks didn't kick off the way I thought it would. I mean, if I guess I was going to reorder the tracks, I think Dude Looks Like a Lady probably would have been my leadoff track, but it's all right. But because I love St. John, that's a great song. That one.
That's a good one. Yeah,
that one kills it, man. That didn't get any play. Rocks, 1976. It is right there with the one that just comes next, and that's Toys in the Attic, right back to back. Yes, those 2 songs are iconic. They will forever be in stone, forever. And the next 2 albums will have none of that, but they have all of everything. And number 2 is Pump. Just start to finish. I thought it was just a rock and roll ride, like their roller coaster that they used to have. They still have it at the theme park, but I just felt like in that studio setting, they just said, and they never went grunge. They never tried to do. They stayed with the blues. Hard rock blues. They stayed with it.
Yep.
Harmonica. I mean, not too many hard rock bands are driving harmonica, or. So, and my number 1 is Get a Grip. There's not a bad track on that entire record from start to finish. It is marvelously produced. I want to say, are there like 17 or 18 tracks on the album? Maybe there's a lot, and all different. You know, you there's some of the songs are nonsensical, and they're absolutely amazing to listen to. You know, they weren't afraid to come after their own selves, you know, and obviously they're wealthy as shit. They don't, you know, and there's another thing. Since I said shit, there's a band since 1973 up until Music for Other Dimensions in 2012, and I don't think they dropped a swear word once. So it can be done, and you can be really successful. And maybe I should stop swearing.
Yes.
Not gonna happen.
Get a grip. Yeah, that album cover was just like blazoned on your brain for whatever. Forever.
Yeah. There's hey, listen, the Black Crows tried to do it too, and there's the kid drew some scrutiny. You know, just so grab another. Hey, whatever.
Ray, did I tell you my Steven Tyler story where I saw him at a gas station?
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was after the show. One of the shows at Darien Lake. I think Motley Crue opened up for him, and you know when you go out to Darien Lake, there's like that 76 giant truck stop there on the way, whatever. So I was there after the show with a friend, and the tour bus stops there, and he walks in with a publicist and a bodyguard, right? And he already looks like he's high, right? He's wearing looks like a baby outfit, like a onesie. Like a tie-dyed purple onesie with a hood, and his hair sticking out, and he was a lot shorter than I expected, but you can't mistake Steven Tyler. He's like a caricature of himself. You know, you could never mistake him for anything other than Steven Tyler. And I don't know, like me and my friend were waiting outside, and he walked in. They said, "Oh, they'll let you take selfies with him or something like that." Of course, at the time, I had a flip phone. My friend, you know, always bugs me because he's like, you were due over a year to get a new phone. You didn't bother to get a new phone. You would have got a phone with a camera. You could have had a selfie with Steven Tyler, but you didn't. So now you don't have one.
All right. So now we get to the part of the show with each individual, and we're going to go through where you place this band in music multiverse history. So starting at the lower end of things, where the band is merely a shadow of themselves, little relevance except in the past, that would be called a faded memory. Then there's opening act, which is there's something special, there's some album, a song, but potentially they are comfortable where they were, and that's just where they stayed. Next up is the club level. They have some good album songs, but not as reliable, nor are they as an inventive thing. Then relevant, the albums are getting better as they move forward, even hitting their stride and truly on their way to potential greatness. Then there's iconic, which is very memorable, very influential to the listener and the industry, and they kind of do some trend setting, and it's generational. And then finally, it's legendary. Entire catalog is near perfection, reliable, inventive, sincere, influential. Now, all the panelists will always say, why the hell don't you send me the list? Because you just rattled that off, and I can't remember a damn thing you just said. I'll try to do that next time, and I'll actually try to put them up on the screen here so you can do that. So we'll start with Sue, legendary, iconic, relevant, club level, opening act, faded memory. We're actually going to have to do one where somebody just is a faded memory, you know? That way.
Well,
better to burn out than fade away.
This is rough, but I think they deserve legendary.
Okay.
You know, again, because of their longevity and just so many, they've had so many really solid good hits. I wish I'd done a little bit more research to see like who they've influenced or who has said that they've been influenced by them, but I think they deserve legendary.
Okay. Ray.
Just based on your description, I was kind of leaning. I'm thinking, you know, perfect library, everything was great. I don't think that was the case, but I think then I'm starting to think, you know, so many of them were so very good. and just the word legendary, how can you not associate it with Aerosmith? So yes, they are iconic, but I don't know that that is enough of a description. Again, like I mentioned, they are
I would
probably,
say, yeah, like their band,
you
the
know,
band is legendary, but their catalog is not legendary. It's just iconic.
yeah. I think that's that. Yeah, I guess I would look at it that way. But if I'm like talking about the, you know, the greatest American bands of all time, I mean, they are definitely amongst the top 3 to 5 of them. You
Yeah.
know, and definitely are. So,
Yep.
yeah, legendary. I don't think they can be named anything else.
Great. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I sort of just said it, but so basically, iconic as the catalog goes, but as the band goes, I'm going to say legendary. So yeah, I mean, have you ever seen them live? They're amazing live. I even in the mid 2000s, like I saw Steven Tyler a couple of times, and he was still hitting those notes from the first album. Like, I was just very impressed.
Yeah, me too.
Like every time you think like great lead guitarist, but no one, whenever it talks about the best guitarist in the world, no one thinks to say Joe Perry.
No.
The drumming's always good. What a great front man, but who's the best front man? Most people don't think to say Steven Tyler, but he is probably one of the greatest front men, so
we'll be getting to that panelist show in a couple of weeks.
Yes, we will.
So legendary. I concur with legendary, and I think it's more so to do with, okay, longevity is longevity, but variety and longevity. Okay? Not reinvention. They didn't become something else. They were always a rock and roll band, and they continue to be a rock and roll band, and they took it to the next level. I don't know how they did it. You'd have to ask them, because honestly, after the 70s and that fall apart there, I would have told you that I wouldn't have expected Permanent Vacation. I would have never expected Pump, and I certainly wouldn't have expected Get a Grip. But just, and this is, I didn't look at the producers. And these are, they might hold some of those producers responsible for having that little for saying, hey, wait a minute, what's this? Do this. Why are you backing away? I don't know. They could, not only that, but if I was going to send a band off to war to go against the Led Zeppelins of the world, the Deep Purples, the whoever from the UK, right? Sabbath. All right. Well, you're going to die. It's too bad. You're done. You're not beating Sabbath. You'd have to send somebody else to if there was like a 7-game series, right? And let's say we had a charting system and Sabbath was in there and they're number 1, right? And the Beatles would be number 1, right? But you get my drift. We're talking about hard rock. They got Sabbath there. You would send a really good band to kind of decapitate them at the knees so that maybe the next band up might have a chance, right? So maybe you send Metallica, and Metallica loses, but they lose gracefully and it's a sudden death overtime. And then Aerosmith could take them out because they would be crippled. But I would send Aerosmith. Aerosmith has that coup de grace in every way, shape, or form. Inventiveness, too, even when you didn't think. And that's where I think my 70s thing falls apart. The inventiveness was not there. They were using other people's stuff. And that's why the 70s didn't hit as hard as that Permanent Vacation, Pump, and that for me. So that's probably why it is. But
side note, Steven Tyler's autobiography is fantastic.
Is it?
I haven't. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to thank the panelists for doing this. This is always a lot of fun. And of course, what was your opinion out there? Do you hold them as in high regards? If you're from across the pond, where do you hold them in the regards of your manifesto of fantastic bands? Do we even get in the top 20 with any of the U.S. bands before we get in there? Where would you rank Aerosmith, legendary, iconic? What albums did you love? What songs didn't we think about? We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course, articles, videos, podcasts coming soon. It's all about albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us. a real music appreciation channel. Let's see what's coming up this week. I've got an interesting artist, A.A. Williams, on Keep It Dark. I'm hoping the Grateful Dude will join me. That is a dark folk kind of record and artist. And of course, we got album review Saturday. And next week, Album Wars begins again. 1985. Not only that, we go panelist favorites is the final progressive rock, progressive music 3 of 3. Thanks for watching. Happy listening.